Shovel Knight is easily one of my favorite games of all time. I will admit, I'm a bit of a sucker for the golden days of yore. I grew up on the NES. The first game I remember playing was Mega Man 2, with my mom beating bosses for me when I found them too hard. Then, when the family upgraded to a Super Nintendo, I rushed home from school every day to play Super Mario World as soon as I set foot inside the door. Now obviously, with an upbringing like that, it seems obvious that Shovel Knight would be up my alley. Everything about it screams retro, and honestly, some people don't really see beyond that. But to me, this game is so much more. The way Shovel Knight looks back on old games and learns from where they succeeded allowed Yacht Club to create a game that feels like the best NES game ever made, and today I'd like to try and show you what makes this game so special to me. The opening stage of Shovel Knight does a very good job at, well, setting the stage. It's pretty straightforward, but it's also easy to see just how it manages to teach you basically everything you need to know about the game going forward. The first things it throws us up against are immobile piles of dirt and very slow, weak enemies. This gives us a safe playground to just kind of, walk around, poke around, see what our general mobility is like and what our range is like. On top of this, there's a couple platforms here where they're set up exactly as high as Shovel Knight can jump, and exactly as far as Shovel Knight can jump. You might not notice this while you're playing, like explicitly notice, but your brain notices. And it's really good to just have that set up so you start internalizing it as you go along. Now when we get to this room, we're presented with a bit of a puzzle. We can tell we had to destroy these blocks to proceed, but how? Standing here and attacking doesn't dig up the ground. Well, after enough experimentation, you'll eventually figure out that if you jump and press down, you have a downwards attack. Now this was by far his most useful offensive tool, so it's good that the game doesn't let you progress until you figure out that you can do it. Now since we've just learned how to do the downwards attack, it's time to learn how to put it to good use. You might have noticed that when Shovel Knight hit the dirt with his shovel, he bounced. You might also experiment and learn that, well, you can't stand on these bubbles and you can't jump high enough to get up there on your own. So instead you put 2 and 2 together and realize that your pogo attack is going to become a fantastic mobility tactic as well. Now in this room we are introduced to checkpoints. We don't know they're checkpoints yet, you can see that by walking past it gets activated, but it doesn't say what it's for. But it's cool, you can trust me guys. If for some reason you don't trust me, well, I'm about to show off how it works. I'd just like to take a moment to pause and point out how well done this screen is. It wouldn't have taken much to just fade to black and fade back in with us back at the checkpoint, but instead they made this little road map of sorts. By creating this screen, we have a greater understanding of exactly what's happening. We died, and then we get to see ourselves being brought back to the last checkpoint that we activated. This is also a great motivational tool on top of that, by showing us just how many checkpoints there are in a level. If we had made it to the 3rd checkpoint and died, I might get frustrated. I might get ready to call it quits if I was having a bunch of trouble with that one specific area. However, being able to tell that I am that close to the end of the stage, just one checkpoint away, I may be more inclined to push through and see it to the end. I wouldn't want to lose all that progress after all. When I died, you might have noticed a bag flew out of my body. that was a quarter of the gold I've picked up so far. See, Shovel Knight doesn't use a live system since they're a little outdated and archaic. It's not fun to die a random number of times and then be sent back to the beginning of the stage. Instead, our form of punishment is a corpse run. Since I'm good enough to get back to where I was, I can negate the cost of dying, and it feels good. I really like this first mini-boss, since it pays homage to old video game bosses back in the NES and SNES days, like the Mecha Dragon from Mega Man 2 and Coronaut from Super Castlevania 4. They were bosses that were so big or so involved that they were actually comprised of background layers. The bosses were the backgrounds. Now because of this, there wouldn't be enough resources to also have a background on top of that, so instead the boss fights were just against a solid black screen, just like this. I just think it's a cute little reference. Now this room is an interesting one. It may seem like we're trapped. Where do we go? There's just walls all around us. Well, you might notice that this wall has a crack in it. And since there isn't really any other way we can interact with things, it's pretty easy to learn that by hitting it with our shovel, it destroys the wall to reveal its secrets. Now this wall up here doesn't have a crack in it, but again, there's not really anything else we can do, and it looks a little suspect. So we hit it with our shovel. Again, the wall is destroyed. This is the game's way of conveying to us that, hey, you know, sometimes there's going to be secret walls that we don't give you hints about. Don't be afraid to experiment. And here it does give us an opportunity to experiment with this. We can see down here there is a crack in the wall, and this is going to reveal to us our first secret. Now, what we have here is a music sheet. This is Shovel Knight's form of a collectible item. There's not much we can do with it right now, but we'll learn what it's useful for fairly soon. And going into this room, it feels like a room that finally takes off the shackles. Not that I've really felt shackled up until now, but it's finally a room where it just feels to get to play with all the tools that we've learned so far. Now, one of the things I really like is this one little gem right up here. It encourages us to take it slow. Most people are going to rush in here, kill all the enemies around, and they're going to miss out on that one gem because they don't realize, oh hey, you know, sometimes it's good to take it slow and use the enemy's layout to your advantage. Same with these blocks here. Most people are going to just run in and destroy all the blocks, but hey, if you destroy them all too quickly, you can't get this one little secret up here. It's cool, man. Take it slow. Now coming down here, there's a platter. If we hit it, delicious chicken. This is obviously like a callback to Castlevania games where you'd find chickens in the walls. I like to think this is a little bit more sanitary. A better reason why it would fill up your health rather than just chickens that have been decaying in the walls for years and years. Picking up these blue jars. Nothing I can really do with them just yet. I really like this room in particular. It's nothing too complicated, but it's the first room that really pushes the player to chain together several pogos in an attempt to get more distance than you'd normally be able to do. It's just satisfying to pull off. Now, this is a fun screen as well. Now, the secret seems pretty obvious, right? You know, you destroy this wall, you get the treasure that's behind it. Nothing to it. Obviously, there's nothing else going on here, just a ladder. So let's attempt to leave. Oh, hey, wait a minute. Do you guys remember seeing a ladder that leads up to this treasure chest? Don't forget what I said earlier. Not all destructible walls are going to have cracks in it to really dictate where the secrets are. So, again, don't be afraid. Just walk around and hit some walls every now and then. Especially when it looks as suspicious as just that big, empty darkness. This Bubble Dragon refight is much more interesting and dangerous. This time there's a couple pits for us to fall into. Now they aren't just explicitly here for us to fall into and die, and if I really wanted to I could just bounce over this guy and leave. But the pits actually serve an important purpose. You see, if I hit him enough, he's going to back up and his head is over that pit. And it's kind of scary to just reach out and try to hit him with the shovel. It really stresses the importance of, hey, use your pogo attack for offensiveness. It's your most important tool. Please learn how to use it. Now the skeleton is kind of a dick. The way he's positioned, if I run in there and try to fight him, he's most certainly going to knock me into the pit. I like to do the opposite, and kind of just let him do his own thing. Now while climbing up this ladder and taking time to dig downwards, you might notice there's some slimes having a good old fun time down there in the grass. It's not something the game does very frequently, foreground objects. I think it's a nice little touch. I can understand why they don't do it too much, because it would be pretty unsatisfying to get smacked around by things that you can't see, but I think it's cute, just to have every now and then. Another thing that's kind of cute, Shovel Knight does it fairly frequently. Most platformer games do these days as well. You can go left. There's a lot of secrets that end up involving you going left. Not even just secrets, sometimes the level design itself just makes you go left. It's a very well-known thing that retro platformers back in the day were just all right all the time. It's just nice to go left every now and then, just kind of breaks things up. Now if you remember how many checkpoints were in the level, you'll know that this is the final one. Beyond it, we have our first boss fight. Black Knight is pretty cool. I really like it when video games have rival characters, though most of them aren't as blatantly obvious as this one. He has pretty much the same battle capabilities as we do. He runs around, he'll take some swings at us, and sometimes he'll try to pogo on us. Now where it gets really interesting is when he tries to shoot us with this shadow ball thing. Of course, if you've played any Zelda game since the dawn of time, you'll probably be able to intuit that you can hit it back at him. It's a pretty satisfying thing to do. All in all, it's not a super complicated boss fight, though it actually can be pretty tough for first-timers. I ended up dying to him several times when I was new to the game, but nowadays it's pretty easy to clown on him. Still, I really like what he brings to the table, and I love it when he taunts you.